I'd like to thank my Lord Bishop for the opportunity to speak to you today and also welcome you all to this conference. And in this session, I'll just be making some background comments and remarks on investment before you get to speak to the experts in the various areas of investing that have been selected for discussion today. I will keep my remarks brief, and once again, I apologize that I'm not able to be there with you in person. The first thing I'd like to say is that as many of us were taught in basic economics, is the reminder that savings equal investments. So it is only what we save that we can invest. The primary building block for investment is saving. And saving is really just earning more than what we spend or spending less than what we earn. That is the fundamental building block of your, if you like, career as an amateur investor. Next thing I'd like to remind us of is the fact that, or is the point rather, that we must beware of the money suckers. Money sucker number one, excessive consumption and lifestyle expenditure. Money sucker number two, unplanned impulse spending. Money sucker number three, investing in assets we don't need or assets that essentially are unproductive or actually expensive to own. Money sucker number four are habits and hobbies that we cannot afford. These things suck the life out of our savings. They suck the life out of stuff that should be going to build long-term financial freedom and independence for many of us, and also impair our ability to give to others and to the work of God. Now, there's a question that's usually asked, especially by people who are on a salary. How do I save when I'm on a salary or my salary is low? Is it possible to save? It is possible to save. I remember someone who told me once, he's become a very big businessman in media and communications these days. But when he was a young lawyer and he was earning 12,000 naira as a salary in the, I think in his own case, in the early 90s as a young lawyer, he said he used to save 2,500 out of the 12,000 that he earned, and he basically just took out 10% of his income, took out another 2,500 and decided that that was his salary. Saving is a habit. So it's not so much the amount that we start with, but the fact that we get into the habit of consistently setting something aside. That's something that all of us can do irrespective of our income. And we can make it a lifestyle. Another thing, especially asked by entrepreneurs, is if my business is growing or my business is at the point where it requires me to invest, I'm at the point where I'm building the business, does it make sense for me to put money aside when my business needs everything that I have or everything that I earn? Now, the truth of the matter is that that's a judgment that we all have to make. Sometimes some people decide that I'm going to take this time to build the business, and once I get it on an even keel, then I will start to invest. I'll start to save. Others decide that irrespective, I will still set something aside because there's a possibility that the business will fail. It's difficult for me to sit here and make a judgment for everyone and say this is what you should do in every circumstance. But I think a lot of the time, we hear that still small voice on the inside of us telling us this is the way to go. But I will say to you that it always pays to set something aside, irrespective of whether you're earning a salary or you're an entrepreneur. The next point I'd like to make is that compounding works. Compounding is really what happens when we put money to work over time, when we allow money to go to work over time and earn on a consistent basis over time. We see that money has children. Money gives birth to children. So for example, if we take the case of somebody who starts their career at age 25, starts earning at 25 and spends 30 years working, at 55, they'd have been saving and setting money aside for 5 years. So if you set 5,000 naira aside every month, over 30 years, that comes to 1.8 million. So if you spend it, you'd have spent 1.8 million over 30 years. If it's 10,000 naira you set aside, that's 3.6 million over 30 years. And if it's 20,000, that's 7.2 million over 20 years. That's money that you could spend. That's exactly what that money is without the power of compounding. Now, if you were to put that money to work, 5,000 every month over 30 years at 5%, your 1.8 million becomes 4.16 million. If it earns at 7.5%, it becomes 6.7 million. If it earns at 10%, it becomes 11.3 million. If you put 10,000 naira to work every month over 30 years, that's 3.6 million. Compounding at 5% gives you 8.3 million. At 7.5%, it gives you 13.47 million. At 10%, it gives you 22.6 million. If you set 20,000 aside every month over 30 years, you would have set aside 7.2 million. But if you compound it at 5%, it becomes 16.645 million. At 7.5%, it becomes 26.9 million. At 10%, it becomes 45.2 million. Compounding works. I'd also like to say that investing in the stock market is a fairly well-proven way to build a long-term investment portfolio. Now, one of the first questions is short-term or long-term. Should we speculate over the long term or over the short term or make long-term investments? I have found that investing for the long term, and all of the evidence shows also, is that you get long-term returns and you get superior returns when you invest in shares over the long term. I remember my mom started investing during the indigenization program of the early 70s in the shares of Nigerian breweries, in the shares of UAC and all of the blue chip companies of those days. Now, in 2019, when she passed on, those small investments that she had made and the dividends she had reinvested over time translated into many multiples of what she had invested. And she was able to leave in her will, specifically for her grandchildren, quite a substantial amount of money. And if you think about the humble beginnings of 500 naira, 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira being invested in these shares, it's pretty clear to me from my own experience, even though all of the evidence from academia and experts in finance also show that investing in shares in a balanced portfolio of equities over the long term gives you a much better return than most other types of financial investment. So the things I will add to that are: 1, pick your stocks carefully. 2, build a diversified and balanced portfolio. 3, use experts. Find a good stockbroker, somebody who is not just competent but also has integrity, and listen to the advice of your broker. Outside of shares, there are all sorts of other investments, mutual funds, currency funds, real estate investment trusts. But one of the things I say is always use a professional. find a professional investment advisor, find a professional stockbroker, and take the advice of these professionals. I'd also like to end this very short talk by reminding us again that one of the things that investing does for us over time is that it gives us independent income. It gives us means and the freedom and the flexibility to do things that our current income does not allow. Or when we have retired and we no longer have regular income, it gives us sources of living independent of work. Now, for those who have the benefit of a pension, who have the benefit of assets, a good balanced investment portfolio is an excellent opportunity to generate income that is in excess of your needs. And then really that gives us the freedom to give liberally and consistently to the work of God. The final point I'd like to make is about real estate. And I'd like to say that it's important for us to get on the property portfolio early, especially in a country like Nigeria where the exchange rate is depreciating, where sometimes the interest rates we can earn investing in savings accounts or term deposits or treasury bills is lower than the rate of inflation. When we have negative real interest rates like we do in Nigeria at the moment, property becomes a very good store of value. But we need to get on the property portfolio early. We need to recognize that it's a long-term play. And we also need to remember that not all real estate is real. Location is the first thing in real estate. Location is the second thing in real estate. As someone once said to me, an experienced and very successful property developer, he said there are three things in real estate. The first one is location. The second one is location. The third one is location. So when you're investing in real estate, invest in location. And right now, one of the best locations to be in Nigeria is Ogun State, simply because of the way development is going, simply because of the fact that Lagos, that has driven the performance of the country for so long, has almost reached bursting capacity. And there's only one way to go. There's only one state that's the gateway, and that's Ogun State. So you have fantastic opportunities, and I'm sure that the experts on real estate will be telling you about the long-term opportunities that exist along the various development corridors in Ogun State. So once again, I'd like to wish you very successful deliberations, and thank you for your attention. God bless you all.